it looks like everything should maybe be working now. I don't know. With all the voice cracks that go with that, um, it feels like the dashboard has changed, but maybe it's not changed at all. So my bitrate is a little higher than last time, which is good, but it still looks quite blurry. So maybe next time I need to increase it even more. I don't have that good internet connection, unfortunately. I did set the latency to be a little lower though, because last time I noticed that there's like a minute, more than a minute even, between me doing something and actually going out to the stream. So I tried to set that to being a little bit lower this time, just so pop out chat, just so we have a little bit more interaction going on, you know. And now I'm going to put away all the viewer statistics because I only care about the live chat. Should I have done all this before going live? I definitely should have. Did I do that? Obviously not. Let's also close that because I don't want anybody pinging me while I'm live. Okay, so what we're going to be doing here today is last time we made a bunch of new rooms. That's not what we're going to do here today, at least not at first. Maybe we'll get to that in a moment. But as you might have been able to see in the community post, if you read up on that, I made these new simple tools for the walls. So I can show you real quick on top of here. I have this neat little wall tool, and what I can do there is I can just drag out the corner, and on the other side, no, it's only like one directional. It only works in one direction, which is a little annoying, but it's more annoying to fix that, so I'm not going to do that. So I can just drag out this wall as big as it needs to be. It generates all these tiles based on a random seed. And then what I can do is come in over here to the, let's see, to the right hand side. I can add in a little window here, and that adds me a new gizmo, which adds in a cutout for a window. It's a little slow to update, I'll admit. And just like that, we have a wall with one of these little window jail cells in it. Then I have a button. I can add as many of these as I like. So let's add a second one, like right over here somewhere. And I have this button, randomize all windows. And there's a little bit of a bug still going on where it does randomize all the meshes, but the lighting does something weird. I haven't figured out what that is yet, and at the moment I don't really care. So I just turn off and back on the jail cells, and then you see the randomized light color as well. And all of those things can then still be manually changed as well. So if I want to change the light color here, I can still set it to purple, and that will be fine, for instance. And I can go into my meshes that I want to disable or enable, and I want to say actually get rid of that potion and add in the bars. Still can manually do all of that. So that's what I made, and that means that every map that I had made with my previous wall system, which was much less viable to use on a big scale, I'll just like copy this one over here real quick to show you. I'll just set it to 0, 0, 0. And that will put it over here. And what this one does is it just has these little like panels. It has 5 or 6 different pre-made panels with these tiles on it that it can spawn in. And I can just put in a height and a width for how big the wall needs to be, which by itself is a pretty decent system, but it's not as accurate. And then when I wanted to put in those little like wall jail cells, what I would need to do is I would need to like leave a gap between two of them and then put one of them in between. That's the width of that jail cell, and it was just really bothersome altogether. So I didn't want to do that anymore because that was really getting on my nerves. So I made this instead. One thing that I should note, and then we'll actually get started with this whole thing, is that this is a dynamic mesh, which is great, unless you make all of the walls in your entire game out of this, especially since this is a quite, like, not intensely complicated, but it's too complicated to have all of your walls being this dynamically generated on runtime. So what I need to do is I have this button here, bake to static mesh, and what that will do is it will spawn in these jail cell actors in the positions that they are in, and then in modeling mode I can go in and convert the actual thing to a static mesh, just for optimization reasons, because otherwise this is way too heavy. You'll see as I go along. I just wanted to give a little bit of an overview of what I made and how I'm going to be working with it. So I already changed up the spawn room here with a lot of these jail cells of all kinds of different colors, which is quite neat. There used to be a grassy hill here. I haven't added that back in when I added in a new floor, and I must say I also quite like this, I think. So I'm going to think about whether or not I even want that grassy hill. I like it for like the opening cutscene that I have in mind, but this also feels like it fits better with the rest of the tutorial dungeons. I'm not entirely sure. And then I also already did this one, and I think also the next room and the hallway after that are already done as well. Yeah, I think they are. They definitely are. Good. So we just need to do a couple more rooms here, and after that we'll see where we go. I am not entirely sure yet. So let's get started, shall we? We want to go into streaming level 06 for the puzzle room, and there we'll first get rid of all of the walls. Which also leads me to figuring out that there's like floating slabs of rock, which I should probably get rid of as well. So let's go into modeling mode for that. I really should be using this shortcut for that. I also, as you, if you have a keen eye might have noticed, upgraded the project to Unreal 5.3. I was having some issues before trying to do that, but the Common UI plugin that I use wasn't very happy with me trying to update. For some reason that got fixed now, so I can update. And the reason I wanted to update is because I can now use Nanite tessellation, which is kind of great. It's kind of real good. It's not officially supported yet. It's not even officially enabled yet. It is in the engine. You can turn it on through your default engine INI file. It's not officially supported yet, and it is a little buggy, but I wanted to have my floor texture be world aligned so that the tiles are the same size in every single room. But the way I did the depth from them is with parallax occlusion, which is something that's done through the UVs. And world aligned is also something that messes with the UVs. So I had a hard time combining both of them. I looked into solutions online, and nobody really seemed to think that it was either possible or otherwise at least reasonable. So I was like, okay, I guess we're gonna have to go with tessellation then, because that just seems like the easiest solution to this issue. Anyway, let's start making these walls. I definitely want to have the rotation and location snapping enabled. And I set the rotation to 45 because, I don't know, 90 just doesn't feel that good to me. That's honestly the reasoning. Why don't you have a gizmo? That is really weird. You should have a gizmo. What the actual fuck? Let's put another one in. Yeah, why don't you? Huh? Is it because I'm in modeling mode? It's because I'm in modeling mode. Okay, that's a little annoying. There's probably a good reason for that still, but it's a little annoying. But the fantastic thing here is what I can just do is I can just say, we've got a wall now. That's how quickly I can just make a wall. That said though, I think I made it in the wrong direction. So that's probably something that I should put in some math for, to just see like what direction the gizmo is from the origin point, and based on that change my code around a little bit. But for the time being I can't be bothered with that. Okay, so it's in this direction. Hello and welcome. I don't know if there's more people just lurking about. There were like 3 people waiting for the stream to start before I started it, so welcome to everybody. I'm just rambling on, which is kind of like the point of a live stream, I suppose. Anyway, that's how quickly you can make a wall with this, and then I simply make sure that these tiles don't clip through this door. That's kind of an important thing, because that doesn't look that good. And then we can just say, let's duplicate this one, and we turn that, no, not that far, we turn that around, and we have wall number 2, and we can just tweak the corner position here a little bit, which we don't have to because you don't see it, but it looks neat. And I have to look at these levels from the outside a lot. The player doesn't, but I do, and I care about this stuff for no good reason. This is Unreal 5.3. As you could probably tell from the fact that these materials, they could have lighting in them, to be fair, but these materials are emissive and actually casting light onto the ceiling there, which is like 90% of the reason that I like Unreal 5 so much, because it has Lumen, which does that for me. Otherwise, I would need to like include a point light or something like that in those blueprints, which I don't know what the performance implications of both of those things are. I feel like this might be more of a hit on performance, to be honest, but it definitely makes my whole job making the game a lot easier, and that's mostly what I care about at this point. We'll worry about performance later. So far, the performance doesn't seem too bad, because it's a quite small scale game. Look, all these rooms, there's only one of them loaded at any given time, so it can deal pretty good with it. I should use a couple less 4K textures maybe. I'll readily admit that. You are entirely correct. I probably I should have just copied over the wall opposite. That is a very, very good point. I didn't think about that. You're entirely correct. Anyway, so now that we've replaced the walls here, let's move on to... I don't want to do this one yet because it's a complicated shape, relatively speaking. So let's remove the walls in this one, which is, hold on, that's 0.5, the platforming level. Okay, and we can place in some more walls. And let's see what direction they need to go in. I believe I need to make this more obvious, is what I believe I need to do. Okay, that's the side with the tiles on it. Again, it's a thing that I made myself, and as such, it's good enough, so it's not very polished up. It should be. Hello and welcome everyone here. Again, I don't know how long I'm going to be live for. I'm going to be straight up with that. Last time it was about 2 hours. I feel like it's going to be about the same, maybe a little longer. I do need to delete this portion of wall as well. What the hell? I do need to schedule some videos and do some like metadata on them after the stream before I decide to go to bed. So there is a, well, I don't want to say a hard cut-off limit, and now that I say that, actually part of that is adding in a Patreon upload, which I'm not going to be able to do tonight, so forget anything I said there. If I just do Control C and Control V, does it pastes in the same location? That is fantastic. So yeah, no, this definitely is the faster way of doing things, right? But then I just need to hold on. Is this a bad idea to do? Maybe, but I could just say scale -1 and that would work, right? That definitely straight up just does the trick. And then I can just copy both of these. And, well, that doesn't work as well. It still works relatively well, though. That whole, like, just take the opposite wall approach is a genius idea. I don't know why I didn't do that before, because this is indeed so much faster. And especially since these objects are going to get, like, baked into static meshes, I am sure that it'll be fine that it's like reversed its scale. And even if it isn't, that will be fine, right? It's not like that's going to glitch out or anything. It's 4 AM for you. Why the hell are you awake? Like, by all means, stick around and hang out, but that does not seem like a healthy time to be awake. Then again, sometimes I am awake at like 2 AM still working on stuff. I know how those kind of things go. Let's just take a different tile seed for all of these so that they're not the exact same wall pasted over and over again. Probably should have done that with those other ones as well. I probably should also make a set random seed button. I think that would probably be a good thing to do. I don't even care really what they look like. All that I care about is that they're not the exact same wall. Just needs to be a little bit of variation in them. Oh, and before I forget, actually, what I need to do is I need to decide whether or not I need any wall, like window things in here, but I don't for these, so I need to go into modeling mode. And I need to convert them to static meshes. And I think I can do that with multiple at the same time. And it's quite nice when you do that, it actually puts them back into the same streaming level that they're in, not in the one that you currently have selected, which I would have expected that it would have done the latter. More of a night person. Fair enough. I also, well, I'm not like a 4 AM kind of night person. But I'm definitely not a morning person either. Frankly, I think very few creative people are, from my experience. I am more of a person that, like, I get real productive usually around like noon up until like 10 p.m. My time. That's usually while I'm the most productive. Which is not great if you try to like have an office job or whatever, right? Because they're like, yeah, that's fine, but we really want you here at 9 a.m. Like, yeah, but really, 9 a.m. I would much rather be, you know, asleep, because that's what I like to do at 9 a.m. On the other hand, I do like working on stuff on like 7, 8, 9 p.m. I mean, it's 7 p.m. here now, and I'm working on this. And while this is not like my office job, obviously, it's still a form of work, right? It's very fun, but especially what I'm doing right now is quite tedious. Like I'm just removing walls. That said, after this, I have replaced all of the walls on my existing levels, so it is actually going quite quickly. Before I get to that, actually, let's get the cube grid tool out here and get rid of this fucking thing as well. Well, with those time zones, it makes sense that it's 4 a.m. for you right now. That makes a lot of sense. It's quite funny. Usually, when you're on the interwebs, I just kind of assume everybody is American, even though I myself am not. So when you're like, but actually, Australian, kind of throws me for a loop. In a good way. It's, I don't know, it just kind of feels like everybody on the internet by default, unless stated otherwise, is just a white American dude. And I know that's quite like a problematic assumption to make, but that's just kind of what my brain does. As long as you get proper sleep and you don't tire yourself out too much, and you can manage your own schedule, and you're not fucking over other people with your like preferred working hours, nobody should give a fuck when you work, as long as you like get your shit done, right? Like again, if you do work in like an office environment where other people depend on whatever your job is to do their job, it makes sense that everybody needs to just be there at a certain time, and that sucks. But if that's not the case, just who gives a shit what time it is when you do your work? Okay, so let's copy this one over again and do the same little trick, because I really like that idea. And then we set the scale to -1, and there we go. And it feels like this doesn't have the proper material on it, but I can't see in lit mode. So the player can't see either. It's all temporary materials on this anyway, so I don't give a fuck. Like I had some, well, not major trouble, but I had some trouble sometimes when I was working an internship for my study a few years ago at this point. Just like getting out of bed and getting to work on time, and that's because, well, I was like working with other people, so yeah, they did kind of depend. Then again, I was an intern, so who gives a shit about the intern being a little late, right? Okay, if you're annoyed that an intern is late, it's a matter of principle, not a matter of actual practical losses most of the time. So you should still just shut the fuck up. That said, if I had an intern and they'd be late, I would also be annoyed. So, yeah, all that. So this is kind of what my... Why? These walls need to be higher. I'm an idiot. I'm so glad, like, just actually working with this new wall system that I've made, I'm so glad that I put in the, frankly, ridiculous amount of time that I put in to make this, because it did take me about 4 hours to get this right. For the most part, it was quite easy. It's just the whole jail cell thing, because those are separate blueprints that I spawn in and then set information on, and that was quite annoying to have to deal with initially. And that was like 3 hours out of those 4 hours trying to figure this out. And the first hour was just trying to figure out how in the world these dynamic mesh components work in the first place. But I'm definitely making a video on this dynamic mesh stuff because it's great. And while the version that I'm using right now doesn't work on runtime, there is something that does work on runtime, meaning that you can make a system very much in theory. Again, I haven't done it in practice yet, so maybe you can't. But as far as I understand, you can just make something that is like a wall where if you shoot a bullet at it, it actually generates a hole in that mesh. And you could take that as far as you'd like, from what I understand, because you can just push static meshes into these dynamic meshes, which results in a situation where you can just put in whatever static mesh you want, make it dynamic, and in that way you can just, like, again, bullet holes are the best example that I can think of right now, live on runtime, which up until not too long ago, it was a pretty insane thought that you could, like, actually do that and not have to, like, change it out for a different mesh with that hole in it, or just, like, use a decal, or just do it on a texture basis or whatever. That said, it's probably better to still do it on a texture basis, but you can also, again, in theory, I haven't tried this out yet, but if you can change the mesh, that also means that you can make a wall that you have to physically, like, shoot down before you can go through it, because that also theoretically would impact its collision, I imagine. But maybe it doesn't impact the collision. I'm not entirely sure about that. If it does, that is amazing. If it doesn't, I won't be too upset, because it feels like updating the collision live on runtime on the go. That might be asking a little too much, and that could get a little weird. Also, welcome to man, I need to increase the size of the font. UU93. How's your day been today? I'm just here losing my mind about dynamic meshes, which, in my defense, is a pretty cool thing. No, don't change the location to -1, because you're gonna fucking lose where it is. Also, I probably should turn on a light in my room, because I can't even read my keyboard. I don't have a backlit keyboard, okay? I think that's kind of overkill, because it's not good for your eyes to work in the dark anyway. And this way it forces me to turn on the light whenever it gets dark out. So otherwise I would start working in the dark. That's not great for your eyes, as I mentioned. So let me be right back. It's literally like 2 steps away to turn on the light. So I might even be able to keep talking. Who knows? Maybe you won't hear me. Maybe you will. I don't know. We can test it, right? So it's always interesting to test this kind of thing. I don't know if it's worth anything to you guys, or to me for that matter, but I'm back already with the light on now, so that's great. So, anyway, what were we talking about? I think I've done this room... Oh, wait a second. No. That wall definitely needs to be, like, 3 segments. because yeah, how are we gonna do that actually? That's a very fucking good question. Maybe it's worth it to put in something that allows me to make one wall with like just a bool cut out in the shape of a box. Let me try that real quick, because that can't be that complicated to add in. The question is, can I make a gizmo that also includes skill and rotation? So can I just make like a transform gizmo? That would be great. I know I can do a boolean, but what I want to know is, can I show 3D widgets on a transform variable? Why is that grayed out? Is that because I'm in the... no. Why is... oh, because it's not public. I'm an idiot. So that should mean that I have a 3D widget somewhere here now, right? Let's make its default position something like 100Z, so that it doesn't overlap with... and this also... oh, that's... oh, I love that. Okay, I love that. That's great. Because what I can do now is I can, at the very end of all this, allocate compute mesh. I know what you mean. That's what I'm doing. Is I'm adding a boolean operation here based on the transform location. The reason that both of those words have the same meaning is because it's either turning on or off the mesh in that overlap. It's quite annoying indeed. That said though, I'm glad that my C++ videos are being received well. It's quite intimidating to get into C++ in Unreal, but I think once you like get going a little bit, it's manageable to a certain extent. That said, I do still have a bug in this game that I'm working on right now. Partly maybe due to my C++ code, where the game crashes every so often, so it does lead to issues sometimes. But I see that as an opportunity to rework my code. That's not a bug, that's a feature of my development cycle, is what I try to tell myself. Anyway, you can apply a mesh boolean this way. That's what I was doing. So I can get the compute mesh will be a box. And the box will have the transform of our bool cutouts. And we'll just make a bool variable for that. Cutout box. I don't know. Something like that. And we'll only do this step here if that bool is true, which it by default will not be. I wish you could set certain like variables to be public or not public based on a bool, or at least like exposed or not exposed. I understand that would probably be like a compiling nightmare, but that would still be nice. So this will be our tool mesh, and then we want our target mesh. Do we have a variable for that? We definitely should. I also should order these a little bit better. Target mesh, yes we do. And just like that, I should put this on subtraction mode. And now I think we should have a bool here which has cutout box, which will allow us, in theory anyway. Okay, it's not working. Let's take a look as to why. It is appending the box correctly, right? Like, that's not the issue. Why is it not appending the box? What the actual fuck? Okay, that probably is... Is it due to that branch over there? Do we have any other branches? No. Do I just have set jail set to false? I'm fairly certain that probably is set to true as well. Yeah, it's also set to true. Why is this box not being appended? Oh. For testing purposes, we need to do that. Okay, so now it's appending a box, at least. That's a start. Let's reconnect all this up and see if it actually works now. Does not seem like it. Because these are not connected up. I am actually an idiot. And now it's cutting out the box. For this one though, I do think I want to center its... yeah. Okay, so that should allow us to drag this back all the way there. And then just use this bool for the box cutout. To in increments of 1 scale this to whatever it needs to be scaled as. It's a decently slow operation, by the way, don't get me wrong. It gets a little laggy, especially with these bool operations. But you can't tell me that this is not fucking awesome. The fact that we can just do this easily like this. And then we probably also want to make this a little wider. And even taller. Yeah, that works for me. I think that works for me. Like, I think that gap is... Let's go into unlit mode. Yeah, that's above the wall, so that doesn't really matter too much. We do want to... And maybe it's slightly faster to do this. You know what? I have a better idea. In order to combat the Z fighting, just move it a little bit and Z fighting's done. It's gone. It's over. I fixed it. Because I'm not at the same Z anymore and nobody's gonna notice like these 2 pixels. So I don't give a crap. Yeah, I think it's possible to do it with it's possible to do with these primitive shapes. Like we have append box and torus and a sphere box, which is a sphere that's made from a box that's been subdivided. Rectangles, the cylinders, all this stuff. But there's also, I think, a copy from static mesh. And that lets you put in a static mesh asset, turn it into a dynamic mesh. And I think you can just use any static mesh as a boolean in that way. So we can actually test that out real quick if you'd like to. Let's do that because I have got a simple block builder here. So let's add mesh to use for bool. Let's make that a static mesh. And then at the very end here, we'll allocate... Wait, what? Allocate compute mesh. Copy from static mesh. And I think we can just hook this up into the dynamic mesh and then our variable into the static mesh here. Yeah, you have a good night. Make sure you get enough sleep over there in Australia. And if that's successful, we'll do a mesh boolean operation. Mesh bool with this dynamic mesh as the tool mesh, and then this dynamic mesh as the target mesh. And in theory, I have not tested this before, so I'm going to save first. In theory, that should allow us to like make a little thing like this, something along those lines. And then say the mask that I have for my player as the... Well, that does need to have a location, I just realized. Can we set that in the structure spin? No. Then we want to have to tool transform bool location. We'll make that... Actually, we'll make that a transform because that just seems to be a better thing to do with that anyway. So now in theory, this should at some point, somewhere, maybe, it's cutting out something. Oh, it's not cutting out anything, it's joining them together, and it's not... It's because I'm an idiot. That's just because I'm an idiot. That should that should be linked to that, and this should be on subtract. Anyway, so now we should be able to subtract just a random static mesh, which is kind of weird with this material. So let's just say world default material. Somewhere in here there is a default material, fine, and that cuts out the custom static mesh from that. So yeah, I knew that was possible in theory, but now we also put it in practice, and that's actually quite nice because this way you can very easily make these kind of tools that you don't have to go into modeling mode for. Because what this is doing, for context, is it's just using, as far as I understand anyway, the same code that all these tools have in modeling mode, but they're just exposed to Blueprint for you to program your own things with, to quickly and easily make assets with this. So Well, now I have that bool also enabled in in that block builder, which is nice. So I was doing a thing. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I was baking these into... Well, I need to be in modeling mode for that anyway. I'm baking these into static meshes. But if I'm doing that anyway, I might as well use the thing that I just made. That's the wrong tab. On this as well, right? I think instead of using a transform with a scale, I should just use like two locations for that though. I think that makes a lot more sense. I'm not going to do that right now, but I do think that would make a lot more sense that way. So let's cut out box, and then the box cutout tool. For some reason doesn't seem to be working again. Is it because the wall is too thick? In this case, it's just because the wall is too thick. Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, because now we're getting to like this issue where... Never mind, we don't have any Z fighting anymore, I don't think. Okay, that actually worked remarkably well. Never mind. I didn't complain about anything. Let's do the same thing for this one as well then, because if we're making new uses of our tool, we might as well, put them to use immediately. And I feel like we can probably just copy the transform from this one into this one, and it will just be in the right spot, because this is symmetrical. That's fantastic. But it feels like there's a little Z fighting going on here. Is that correct? It is. Oh, well, that can be easily fixed actually, because we can just pull this back 100 units. There we go. Probably should do that with this one as well then. Do we have any similar issues here? No, because these already... Yeah, okay. Now, let's make these into static meshes. It's the thing that we were actually doing. Modeling mode. These three as well. Oh no, it just helped me with level design. This is not performant at all. This is really bad for performance. These dynamic meshes absolutely kill your frame rate. So they are, for the most part, not meant to be used outside of the editor. And I'll show you in a second. I'm working on... I think I'm working in the wrong streaming level, guys. Hold on one moment. I want to make sure that, yeah, I need to move everything selected to this level. And then I will show you about the dynamic meshes in a moment, after I've moved all of this about. Okay. Move selected actors to level. If I now disable this level, we don't have any of the walls anymore. Okay, cool. So how this works is making a new blueprint. This is very small resolution and then also very blurry for you probably. So if you can't read this, I am going to make like just a proper video on this as well because it's so fucking cool. But I need to like figure things out a little bit more before I feel comfortable doing that. But if we look for dynamic mesh actor, we have the dynamic mesh actor. This one works on runtime from what I understand. So we can implement this in the game itself. And if you have, again, the example that I gave before of a wall or maybe like a chair or whatever, that you want to be able to actually shoot a bullet through, what you could in theory do, again, as I understand it, is make something where you can put in a static mesh. It makes it into a dynamic mesh, which you can then apply these kind of Boolean operations to in real time. That is very performance heavy. I don't think Unreal really wants you to do that a lot, but as far as I understand, in theory, it should be possible. Then we have the generated dynamic mesh actor, which adds in a specific function that you can use instead of the construction script, which is just more performance for working in the editor. But anything that is a generated dynamic mesh actor will not be packaged into your game. So if I were to leave all of these as generated dynamic mesh actors and I packaged the game and I started it up, I wouldn't have any walls. And the reason that I know that is because I did that and I didn't have any walls. So that is how that all works. Also, what I should do is I should go through all these walls and make sure that they have effect distance field lighting set to false, so they don't cast shadows on themselves from the distance field lighting, which is quite nice. For this room, we obviously have a different look altogether, and I don't have anything to do with that. And then for this room, we have the same thing. We do have some light, nice little light function here, though, which I really like. And then we just have the camera speed being way too freaking low, first and foremost. And then we just have all the levels that I've been working on so far, which I eventually need to replace the walls and stuff for. I might as well do that now, right? But I still need to playtest all this from like just a fun factor perspective, which I haven't done yet. So maybe don't put in art assets for this yet. Maybe that's not the best idea. But I have now redone all of the rooms for the tutorial that needed to be redone. So that's a good start. I guess what we could do, what we were just fucking about anyway, is we could, well, first and foremost, we could like finish this whole setup, but I don't feel like doing that at the moment. I had a room here somewhere. Oh my god, it's so dark in here. I haven't added any lighting in these rooms yet. I had a room in here, which the idea we came up with on the last live stream last week is to put in like a special wall here that has an HP value. I think we can just make that right now, but that does require me to go into my code real quick and check whether or not it applies damage to every actor or only the actors that it's like checking for, because there shouldn't be any reason. Of course, yeah, so it's applying damage to the actor stats component. That's why it's being a little bitch about it. So if there's no actor stats, what we'll just do is we'll just apply damage directly to the actor. That way we can just make things like walls and stuff that are destructible. So we can say other actor. I think that's just like apply What the fuck do you mean, no suggestions? Why do you not have intelligence for actor? That's stupid. You are an actor. You should know how actors work. What the fuck? Let me just Google this real quick then. Unreal A actor apply damage. I believe that's a function on the actor. Yeah, I need the C++ version, please. It's a gameplay statics function. I could swear that it's also an actor function. Like, I literally went through this in my tutorial for it. Because I thought it was a gameplay statics function. And then I found there's also a actor-based function on this. I'll just go into the actor class documentation here and see whether or not I can find anything to do with damage. Oh, no. Okay, so it is a gameplay static thing. It's the taking of the damage that I am mistaken on. That's fine then. So we can just do a... Actually, I think I have that exact line over here somewhere. Still doesn't make any sense why the intelligence doesn't do anything regarding... I'm going to need to rewrite a lot of this anyway. I don't. Okay, hold on a second here, because if target enemy stats health is less than 0, we return. This line all the way to... This is all irrelevant on what I'm hitting. Even this. Okay, so we can put all that outside of those brackets. And we don't need an else. At all. We can just put that here without commenting any of this code, which is great. Damage dealing. And then this is only for the knockback in case we hit a character. Increase the revenge counter. I'm also going to set this set generate overlap events to being false. I'm going to deal with that another way in the future. The impact freeze we should only do when we hit an enemy, not with the wall, I think. That makes sense to me, yeah. And then the knockback stuff we only do when it's an enemy. Okay, let's hope that doesn't ruin all of my code. Because it very well could, and it probably will. Who knows? I guess we'll see. Before moving forward, I am going to test that. I know it's a little bit of a tangent that we're going on here, but I don't want to like keep going forward here. Without knowing that it at least somewhat works. A big part of this whole combat system, well, it's actually like this damage overlap stuff probably will still work the same way. my combat system in general is going to need an overhaul, which I am currently researching about and writing a video about, where I'm going to be switching over to Unreal's gameplay ability system, because it just seems like a much nicer way to do things, and it seems like it's just worth learning how to use it, rather than making my own slapped together data asset based system. Because that's the entire reason that I'm using Unreal, is because it offers so many pre-existing systems that are just more robust than what I can code myself. Okay, before we do anything else, let's test whether or not... Holy shit, that's loud. My game shits itself when I try to attack something now, because there is every chance that it might. Why are you not tessellated? Do you have any good reason not to be? I don't think that you got... What the fuck? Oh, it's also dealing damage to itself. Yeah, no, probably that that's a good point. Probably shouldn't have this thing deal damage to itself, eh? I know that doesn't make... Oh yeah, no, that does make sense. Never mind. That makes sense. Okay, let's get rid of this code here. And again, put that somewhere in here. And instead what we will do is... It's a very good question. What will we do with this? Wait, other actors player on null pointer should already return. Why doesn't it? You see, my code doesn't work. Welcome to my life. It doesn't help that I'm live streaming, so compiling takes a little bit longer. A compiling error, because why not? Weapon CPP 120. Where is anything going wrong here? Oh yeah, we don't have the controller here. But that we can very easily fix by getting the controller right up here. It probably doesn't. You're probably right about that. I thought I had a direct reference on the weapon to the player, which I think is done in begin play here. Let's see. Yeah, oh, it doesn't even cast. It's just get player character. So that should always work, because this doesn't get spawned in until the player character exists, because it's components on the player character. So that is interesting. The player itself is an active pointer. That should work, but just to be sure, let's make it a character pointer. Shouldn't need to be the case, but maybe there's something weird going on there. You should never change two things at once while testing. don't do this. Because then you don't know what was the actual issue. And how to prevent it in the future. Like, that's how you create your own programming superstitions, which is not a great thing to do. Because it leads to a lot of misunderstanding and a lot of frustration again in the future. Let's see whether or not I still hit myself. I still fucking hit myself! I mean, it's funny, don't get me wrong. That deals a fuck of a ton of damage. Makes more sense to put all that code up here actually, so let's do that. And then if other actor is equal to player or other actor is null pointer, we return. I'm just going to ulog both of these. I forgot how to ulog the name of an actor. I'll do one better. This is a very bad way of doing things, but for now, I don't want to be stuck on this for the rest of the stream. So what we'll do is we will just get player character every time we overlap with something. That's definitely not something you want to do. But at least we can be reasonably sure that this won't fuck up. Watch this fuck up even worse. This is gonna fuck up even worse. I can feel it in my bones. I just wanted to make a wall, dude. That's all that I wanted to do without fucking up my code even more. Okay, but seriously, why are you not tessellated? Like, I know that I'm getting a little distracted here. But you should be... There we go. Okay, apparently Nanite wasn't enabled for this one. I could swear that it was before, but... Fuck me, I guess. Well, at least I'm not damaging myself anymore. And this whole impact system stuff is only happening when I hit the floor. So that also is good. Because we can easily change that. We can go into our sword. And say our damage box should only overlap with... Fucking fly can buzz off. It should ignore world static things. It probably only needs to really do things with pawn, to be honest with you. But I think just making it ignore world static will do the trick. There we go. My frame rate fucking sucks. But now that that works, let's actually make the thing that I wanted to make. Which is the wall that can be destroyed. Which will just make in Blueprint, because it only needs to, like, it needs to have a variable for health, and when it gets attacked, also let's set effects. This is field lighting to none, so that now we can actually fucking see. It only needs to have an HP value, and maybe at some point do something with the material. Like, this doesn't need to do much, is what I'm trying to say. So let's say we have BP breakable objects. And from there we can make some child blueprints if we wanted to. So let's give this a static mesh. By default we'll just give this a cube. And we'll give it a float for HP. Which will be exposed because we want to give that a default value. Let's say our default value here is like 100, something like that. And then on take any, no, that should just be an event. Take any damage. I could have sworn there was an event in Blueprints that did this. Event any damage. Yeah, there we go. And the damage will just be subtracted from our HP. That's not how that works at all. Again, why is there not a minus equals node? I've bitched about this enough, I know, but I'm going to keep bitching about it until they add it in. I know there's a free plugin that does that. I'm still salty that it's not part of the Blueprint system to begin with. And then let's just, for testing purposes, print out the remaining HP. And it should be as easy as that. With, of course, also a check if it is less than or equal to 0, we should destroy. And eventually this will also have like a particle system to go with it and stuff like that. All that kind of good stuff. If true, we destroy actor. And if false, we print string. Now, this is not a map where we're going to spawn in, so this is not a map where we're going to be... Actually, let's just spawn it in at a new game. Why not? Breakable object. You make a good point. Let's put this in the starting room 01. Let's see if this works. I'm surprised actually by the fact that this is not by default set to world static. But it also doesn't... this is an interesting issue, right? Because my character isn't like using the code to lock onto nearby enemies to damage this thing. But is that like part of the appeal, potentially? That it doesn't do that? Because if there's enemy nearby, it will damage those enemies first. And the whole idea here is that there will be a bunch of enemies in this room as well. For some reason, it just absolutely yeeted itself there. The whole idea is that there's also going to be a bunch of enemies in that room as well. That will distract you from breaking the wall down. So maybe it's a good idea that if there's any enemies nearby, But that could also just end up being frustrating, right? That's the one thing that I want to be careful about, is it shouldn't end up being frustrating. What level is this even? 110, okay. For now though, I think this works well enough. Let's just like make it a big wall. Again, we'll eventually this will be something more fancy, but for now this will do. The only issue is if we come into the room from this side, we need to do something in the level blueprint to destroy this wall automatically. Otherwise it's going to be real annoying to deal with. Do we have whatever level this goes into yet? Yes, we do. So we can just say if the previous level is 111T hallway, destroy that thing. And then we're going to need to walk all the way the fuck over there to test whether or not it works. So maybe put a save point there as well. It's 1 purple, 1 level T hallway. Level blueprint. That's the persistent level blueprint. I don't want to look at that because it's ugly. And this is what level? 110. That makes sense because the other one was 111. 110 break hallway platforming, and then we can just good question, what do we store that on? I think we store that on the game mode, right? The whole level to load info. Level to load is what happened? Where did I go? Okay, there we go. That is on the save game, yeah. But is it on the game mode? It's probably on a game mode. Oh no, it is on the game instance. I was correct. So we just get game instance and then we cast that to our BP Action RPG game instance. Oh, you should definitely just go have some fun with Diablo instead of worrying about all my coding and stuff and your own coding, especially. Last level, I think it is, and if that is equal to this level name, then we want to destroy that actor. I think that's how that will work. So let's get a reference to that. And destroy. Destroy actor. God damn it. I can't type. Destroy actor. There we go. Now, let's test whether or not this works. Again, we're going to need to walk quite a ways in order to test this. And I don't think I have a save game where I have this boss fight beaten. Also, if we're going to do that, I'm going to set my scalability to medium because it doesn't like me streaming at the same time. Let's load game. And the wonderful thing about being the developer here and being in the engine editor is that I can just simply go levels, tutorial, event has happened, and we're gonna go to number 7, door has opened, and we're gonna set that to true. And then we're going to go to number 8, cutscene has played, and number 8, boss has been defeated. And now, if I go through, I can go through the door and I can just skip the boss altogether and we'll all be fine. And I don't have to worry about defeating that goddamn boss fight, which, yes, I fought that boss fight quite enough times today. Well, not today, I haven't fought it today, but like in general. I probably should take a look at those tiles clipping through that wall, or that door rather. There's no boss here. So we can just immediately go through there and find the other big ass door. Oh yeah, the tessellation thing, that probably should work in the opposite direction, eh? Because now I'm clipping through the floor. Didn't think about that before. Okay, so what is the quickest way to get there now? Because these levels I don't know as well yet. I mean, I've made them, but I still don't know them that well. Yeah, this definitely wasn't the quickest way to do this, I realize now, because this level is actually quite bothersome to deal with, I think. Well, it's not that bad. You're supposed to fight those enemies, and those enemies are supposed to be like shooting you off. But they don't, and they're not. So just ignore that for the time being. Thank you very much. There's eventually going to be a door there as well. At the moment there isn't, and I don't know why. I think because it leads into another dungeon that doesn't yet exist. That door needs to be level with the floor because it's floating at the moment. This staircase needs to have an actual fucking material on it. And collision. Okay, yeah, that's a thing. It maybe having collision on a staircase is a good thing. Yeah, that could be good. Let's save the game here. And that leads us into, I think we go left here. And then we get into this wall break. That's the wrong door. We should be getting through that door over there. Anyway, we have this wall over here, which we can probably just like squeeze past, right? We can't leave him. So we do this whole shebang. Destroy the door. Go through it. And that's exactly why I saved the game, because apparently that door doesn't have the link to the proper level yet. One has to wonder why that is. 111T hallway. What? I'm slightly confused about all this. Oh, it's 111T hallway 2. That's the issue. Okay, that makes sense. Which also means that we should double check that here. It is correct in there. Okay, let's do it again. This time at least we will be able to load our save from the circular room, which saves us a little bit of walking. I'm gonna be honest though, the fact that we have this block out for the first dungeon, and this is like 1/6, is very intimidating. But walking through it like this, trying to get to a certain location, it also shows me that the scale that I'm hoping for is reasonable and might actually like end up coming through. Okay. Now, we load into T hallway, number 2, we go back, and the wall's not there. That's fantastic. Because if we go through this door again and we come back, the door will be there. And there we go. We could, if we wanted to, we could make this door part of the persistent level. That would have been an easier way to do this to begin with. So that way it doesn't load in at all again after you've destroyed it until like you reload the game, at which point you would have to re-destroy it again. I think this is better because this like resets the challenge of this room whenever you get back into it. So for now, I think this is the way we're going to go about doing it. I also definitely like that one line that I disabled somewhere in here. Where I, what was it? Set hitbox back to false after hitting once. We'll see what we do about that, because at this point, if we do it this way, we can only ever hit one enemy in one animation, and I like the idea of being able to hit 2 or 3 enemies that are close together with one swing. We can't do that this way. But right now you can also hit one enemy multiple times with the right animations, and I don't like that either. So what I really should do is I should make on the enemies themselves, I should just makeable for like invincibility, which I already have actually, but it's a little fucky. So I probably should make like just a separate wall where it doesn't allow it to be hit for like 0.2, 0.3 seconds after it's been hit. Something like that. Yeah, this feels a little better now, because now we actually need to like complete like 3 combos, 2 combos, never mind. And then the wall breaks. And then the wall is still gone. Okay, I like that. That's good. It's very good. So now what do we do? Because do I continue building levels? How long have we been live? For an hour and a half. I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting a little hungry. Not entirely sure what I want to do. Let's see how YouTube is doing. Not terrible. Again, it's still very blurry, but at this point not much I can do about that, if I'm being honest with you. Okay, let's go do something a tiny bit different. What I think we should do is we should try to start thinking about how to make these rooms a little bit more fun. Because as you could see before, I can just kind of run past these guys and that's it. But I also find myself a little bit in a bit of like a between a rock and a hard place kind of situation. Because I can't make enemies faster than the character, because that will be very annoying if you're trying to run away from an enemy. You don't want to be able to like have an enemy walk faster than you, right? I don't think you want to be able, most enemies at least, to be able to catch up with you. So we can't just make the enemies faster and more aggressive in that way. Maybe we need more of them. Maybe their cooldown time between attacks needs to be lower. And for certain, there needs to be more of the flying enemies in this map. I think that is for sure. Right? And the flying enemies need a shorter cooldown on their attack. because at this point it's literally just hanging out here and doing nothing. Why is that? Is it because it can't see me? Surely it's not just because it can't see me, right? Let's try it again. Yeah, it doesn't really like to do anything. Let's get to a safe place real quick and check out what the hell is going on with its AI. Because that is a little weird. This should have, yeah, a reference to the behavior tree. I'm afraid it's going to be hard to put both of these on the same screen. So bear with me for a second. Okay, so it's stuck in its waiting loop, and that is because the knockback is set to false. But the attack is set to true. Okay, so it attacks once and then it gets stuck in an attacking loop. That's not great. That shouldn't be too difficult to fix, though. That shouldn't be too difficult to fix. I'll show you the behavior tree again now that I'm actually working on it. Somewhere in here. There we go. Because when it attacks, it should can we make a set blackboard key or something? Set. Huh. Why is there not just a default node in here to give a blackboard key a function? Or a value, rather? I'm certain that that is a thing. Hold on, I'm going to Google this because it feels like Unreal set blackboard key from task. The thing that confuses me, right, is if I go into these enemies here and they attack, which is this one, their attack does get reset. And they use the exact same behavior tree task. So why? Is it because of the animation? Did I just forget to put like an animation event in or something? Is that part of the end attack? Let's go animation blueprints. Attack, set attack state, which is, yeah, okay, so it doesn't have an end attack on the flying golem. Or rather it does, but it probably doesn't have that function linked to it. No, it does. What? Why? I guess maybe because it's just blending out of it a little. Or maybe it's specifically the right attack that doesn't have it. That could be. That is the case. That's the issue. So we can add a start attack here. And we can add a end attack there. And while we're at it, it feels like these should just shoot more often to begin with. Every, like, 2 seconds on average is actually not that bad. Let's see if 2 seconds is a little too aggressive. Again, maybe that could be configurable on a per instance basis. Maybe that would be better. Or maybe that would be less predictable and that would be horrible. I don't know. I'm going to do a little bit more here. I'm just going to be tweaking some things. I'm not going to be doing much in the way of major things. But like another 20, 30 minutes of just like fucking about. I think I can deal with that. That said, doing this entire route every single time to test is also not ideal. So maybe just for my sanity, I should just be test playing that streaming level only. But hey, who knows? Okay. You attack me. That's good. Then 1, 2. And attack me again. I said attack me again. You're not attacking me again. And you're not attacking me at all. Okay. What's going on here? Your attack is stuck in true. Does that for any reason have something to do with the stop movement node? No, because stop movement is just... I mean, this is not going to change much, right? This is still... its attacking state is true. Why is its attacking state set to true? This is weird. I don't like this. What is this blueprint's parent class? No, because the attacking state does get set to true, so this does need to be... I'm going to check it anyway, but... Huh. Airborne enemies, golem enemy. Your class is air enemy base, and air enemy base is a C++ class, which inherits from ground enemy base. Ground enemy base. So that cast should be successful. So that can't be the issue. I'm just gonna do a little weirdness here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just not allow you to set your attack to true at all. What I'm also going to do is I'm gonna go and put some of these enemies in this level instead. So I don't have to go all the way back and forth every single time. That seems like a clever thing to do as well. So let's put a couple of these down here somewhere. That's... Is this too much? This might be too much. I don't really care. I need to test this shit. How are you attacking without the code that allows you to attack? Well, actually... No, that does make... No, that doesn't make sense. No, that does make sense. Does it? I don't know if it makes sense. Let's check. Your attack is still set to false. Okay, that's good. So when the attack is set to false, it should be able to attack. It just doesn't get its state set to be attacking. Come on, give me back my VRAM. Thank you very much. Where are all the other fuckers? And why are they up so high? They shouldn't be up that high. I can't get that high. Like, oh no, I can. Probably should fix that as well. And you should probably rotate towards me, but what do I know? They just keep infinitely going up higher. And that's because, they're not linked to a spawner. That actually makes sense. They probably should do a line cast to base the height off of. God, this suddenly feels like Kingdom Hearts 3, doesn't it? I can just fucking fly mid-combat. Okay, so for some reason, the end attack notify isn't... Are you fucking kidding me? Is it a typo? It's a fucking typo. Is the issue. Okay, well that's been fixed, hasn't it? I mean, the random patrol location we probably should also just look into right now real quick. Because... Move to flight location, find patrol location? Can I please just open this C++ class? That would be fantastic if you would let me. I'll just go into VS Code. That's also fine. And that should be in enemies, AI. Find patrol location. I thought I did a line cast here, but apparently not. Like, if it has a spawner, it does this, else it does its current location plus or minus 500. Okay. Oh, and then we have the max height or min height. And the issue there being that it's always increasing its height. Right? That's the issue? Because it's current location plus that. So the Z should just... Hold on. we'll fix this real quick. Unreal C++, line cast. Is that a use gameplay static? That's just U world. Okay. Get world. Line trace. Again, my fucking... Hold on one second. Reveal file in Explorer. Sometimes this works if I just go right click, generate Visual Studio Project files. Sometimes that fixes this weird ass like linking stuff which stops IntelliSense from working. Well, I disagree. I don't think Unity is easier. I think Unreal has more features and seems more intimidating as a result. Thanks for popping in though. That's fine. I mean, if you gotta work, you gotta work, of course. Line trace single by channel. Then it's parameters. We need a bunch of them. Is a out hit, which, hold on, here we have a f hit result, which I can just copy over from there. Then the starting vector will be, hold on, that's the out hit results. Starting vector will be the get actor location. The endpoint will be the actor location. Now live on your channel. I am still live. I don't know why you're sending me emails about this, YouTube. Minus, let's just do minus like 10k. I don't know if this impacts performance necessarily too much. I don't think it really does. The trace channel will be world static, and what the fuck's going on with all that? So that will be our collision channel. Oh, there we go. And hopefully it just has... It does not. You know the way we're going to fix that? The way we're going to fix that is we're just going to make that a U property. Fuck that. Collision channel to check. This game will be a kind of a in-between between a bunch of different kind of games that I like, but it should be a bit like a Kingdom Hearts-ish combat feel with more of a Souls-like game structure. So it's got like it's got like these dungeons with bosses at the end, and those bosses give you rewards, which builds towards the end of the game eventually. But the combat is a little faster paced than you might be used to from Dark Souls, because I don't like Dark Souls. Dark Souls is a little too clunky for what I like. And I'm a one-man team, so I can't make the combat as flashy and as over-the-top as Kingdom Hearts does. So it's kind of like an in-between, and hopefully that doesn't ruin anything. F collision params, we definitely need that because we want to ignore self. That's the query params. We don't need that, I don't think. Where the fuck did my... There we go. And then... So yeah, we don't need the collision response params, I don't think. I think we only need the query params, because this one has the ignore self in it, I believe. Ignore... Add ignored actors, we just add this. Okay, and then where do we set the effector location? Oh no, that does make sense. Okay, no. Which actually means that we can just use this variable rather than that. I should pop the chat back open. The character itself is actually quite inspired by Hollow Knight. I'll readily admit that. I think there is like, if I run the game, like it's definitely like not the same character by any stretch of the imagination. Like this is my character. Clearly, it's different. But in a certain like manner of speaking, there is some inspiration from the Hollow Knight character, among some other things, in this little dude. What? Where? Where? Unreal. Thank you. There we go. Okay. Yes. Like one of the ways that I could explain this as well is it's kind of like an open, a little bit more open version of 3D Hollow Knight as well, is how I have talked about this in the past. I don't think anymore with the way that I'm going with this that is as true as it was a couple of months ago. But definitely it's a possibility. Yeah. To explain it like that. Okay. Out hits dot location dot z. The Unreal interface is overcomplicated in a lot of ways. And I do think that once you get into Unreal, compile errors, ignore this. But once you get into Unreal, it is easier in a lot of ways than Unity is. But the initial hurdle to overcome is quite big, and at some point you will have learned like most of Unity. Even as a solo dev, you'll have like a pretty good grasp of pretty much like at least like the base engine, right? Not saying all the packages that you can add into it. You shouldn't expect that level of mastery or understanding of the entire engine in Unreal because it's just so fucking wide. It's it's so much wider, and it has so many more features aimed at so many more different roles within a game development team that it isn't reasonable for yourself to assume that you're going to learn everything. Which is an issue that I have personally because I want to learn everything. But all those extra features make it intimidating. But also, once you are used to those and you understand them and you can work with them, they do make things a lot easier to then work with. So let's see, what did I fuck up here? That is a good question. Header file line 28. What's wrong with that? Cannot use a raw enum as a type of member variables. Instead use at enum bytes. Okay, if that's what you want. Yeah, Unreal has two particle systems built in. Actually, very much like Unity has two particle systems. One that is pretty much the legacy system, which is there for just like legacy support, and then we have Niagara, which is the particle system that you should be using. I can show you a little bit about that in a moment. How does that work again? Enum as byte. Can I just like do that? Is that all I need to do? It's been a while since I needed to make an enum in C++. I am by no means like a master about making particle systems though. Like I can make some, and I need to get better at them, because at some point my game is going to need visual effects. Right now it's got a couple of simple ones, and a couple of ones that might stick around for the entirety of development. Oh my fucking god. You know what? Forget this whole, we'll just make it a parameter. E collision. Hello, IntelliSense, thank you. There we go. Do we have visibility? Do I want visibility or do I want world static? I think I want world static. I mean, the Unity particle system, whether or not you're talking about the original, the old one that runs on the CPU, or the VFX Graph, which is like their GPU particle system, I very much liked the VFX Graph in Unity, and to a certain extent, I would argue that it's actually nicer to nicer to work with than Niagara. But that's just my opinion. Line 40. Yeah, I know that it's on line 40, but what is the actual issue? No overload function could convert all the types. Add actors to ignore. What do you want then? What should it take in? Actor pointer. Ignore this actor. That seems like what I just did. Oh, no, that's not what I just did, because that's... I'm not working on an actor. Yeah, no, that's my bad. I think the address of is already baked into the... We'll see. Into the function. I don't think I need to add that myself, but maybe that's actually a good solution. Okay, that compiled. So, let's see, the particle systems, right? So we have... well, these are not very good particles to show off, but we have this emitter right over here, right? And this is my healing system, which definitely needs a little bit more work to it. So you can see it's not too dissimilar from Unity's old particle system, where you just have like a bunch of settings in a row. What we have is the emitter update. So this is like the initial spawning settings. Then we have the particle spawnings. So that's the settings that you can add in about when the particle spawns, and then the particle update is just what happens every frame to the particle. And then you have a section for renderer, and you can add in all the specific things like particle spawn. You can set the velocity, something like that, if you spell it correctly anyway. You can, let's see, that's add velocity. Maybe it's called add velocity. Which then adds on velocity on particle spawn. But only on particle spawn. So if you do it in the particle update, it will do it every frame. So we can see here, if I say the velocity scale, I think this is velocity upward, it adds it in add particle spawn, but not after that. And if I do it here, add velocity. We want to add a force, a linear force is what it's called in update. It's called different things in updates and spawn for what I think are pretty obvious reasons. You want to be able to differentiate. But now it will add to them every frame. So you will see that these particles start rather slow and then start moving faster and faster the longer they are alive. So that's how this works. It works with these modules in which you can like put in, almost you can think of them as functions with then the parameters here on the right hand side. It's quite nice to work with, and this can handle a fuck of a ton of particles. And this is just like a sprite particle renderer that I have here. But you can also add in a ribbon renderer and mesh renderers. For instance, the where do I have this one is the question though. I don't have all of my assets ordered properly, which is a real fucking issue. Let's go into my sword because it has this one. Of course you don't see it because that only spawns things when it moves. So I have a ribbon renderer as well, which you might have seen in a moment ago, which is like my weapon trail. That's just a ribbon rendering particle system. And those bullets, of course, also just a particle system. So fuck off, back to the ground. That death animation also includes a particle system that spawns things from the skeletal mesh, which is quite nice. How can you add a component classes to objects like in Unity? Also, every object is just an actor. I think it would be helpful to take a watch through my playlist on the basic stuff of Unreal, because it is like the object hierarchy works fundamentally pretty differently in Unreal, because in Unreal we have like two different, and again I'm not going to get too deep into it right now because I do have videos on this, but if we like make a blueprint class here, you can see we have actors, pawns and characters. This is like a hierarchy. Pretty much everything you put in the world is going to be an actor. Pawns are actors that can be possessed by the player controller, and characters are pawns with a character movement component. And then anything you make of this are children of any of these classes as well, and that makes its own hierarchy. And then we have a component hierarchy with actor components. Those are just components that you can put on your character, which have like functions on them or variables on them, just information. And then you have scene components, which are components that also have a physical location in the world, such things as a mesh, right? A mesh or a particle system, those would be scene components. So the basic difference, though, is that in Unity, all your game objects are just objects with a bunch of components on them. So the way you could think of that is in Unity, everything is just empty. And has a lot of actor components on it. Whereas in Unreal, the objects themselves also, or well, not the objects themselves, but all of these different actor types you make also are classes, and as such can have inherent code to them. So if I open up this pillar, for instance, this code, which adds some static mesh components and sets that collision and whatever, and then we have a for loop here to add some more components, that just lives on this specific pillar itself. So this is not on a component that is on the pillar, it's just directly on the pillar. That is a significant change in the way to think about how your game is structured. And that is probably the most difficult change if you're going to go from Unity to Unreal. If I have my character here, for instance, my character here has some simple blueprint code as well, which I don't remember what it's for. Oh, it's to set the UI and stuff like that. Then he also has a bunch of, somewhere in here anyway, then it also has like a bunch of C++ code to make the entire character function the way it should. And it has a bunch of components. So we can see here the capsule component for its collision. The healing particles is a component that definitely should not be auto-activated. It's got some recovery particles for when it recovers in mid-air. It's got the dashing particles. All of these I put on as components. It's got this whole camera system as components. The mesh itself as components. Then I have this static mesh that is attached to his face as the mask. The weapon is a child actor component, which is a component that can hold another actor in it, which is really useful. So that way you can put actors inside other actors. And this arrow component is just something that the engine specifically gives when you make a character. And then I also have a couple of actor components here. So all these were scene components. These are actor components. So this is an AI stimulus, meaning that when I put this on an actor, the perception system Unreal has can now perceive this character from the AI. So the AI has a system where I don't remember what the shortcut for it is. I believe it's like Shift F3, something like that. Perception AI debug? I don't know. There's a shortcut that will show it. Let me look that up real quick. Unreal AI perception debug shortcuts. Numpad key 4, apparently. But not with this open. Okay. Do I have numlock on? No. Oh, it's this. No? Yeah, so that's just straight up not doing what it says it's doing in the documentation. Fair warning, Unreal's documentation, it's kind of shit. But there is a debugging console, so at least there's that. You're right about that. But so, long story short, Unreal has this perception system where I can just show you on the enemy here, or on the enemy controller rather. It has this AI perception component where I can say which senses it has. So right here I have its sense of sight configured, and there I can say its radius in which it can see, its radius at which point it will lose sight. So if I come within 1,000 units of this thing, it will see me, but then if I run away and I'm just 1,100 away, it will still see me until I'm 1,250 away. Then it's peripheral vision angle and a couple of other things. So that's a built-in perception system that it has in Unreal. And that will only perceive actors which have this AI stimulus component, which is quite nice. But then I also have this component that I made myself for the stats. There's a character stats component, and this holds things like my health and my mana, but also some data tables as to like my level up experience curves and stuff like that. So I hope that gives a halfway decent quick overview of Unreal Engine and its ups and downsides and how things work. Again, I do have a playlist on the channel which is like 5 hours of content of going over like all the most important basic things about Unreal. Both for just Unreal in general and also for specifically if you want to work with C++. All that said, though, I was trying to debug an issue. I don't remember what I was doing. I think I fixed it, right? Oh, I was trying to fix... I don't think I ever compiled, right? Did I compile? I think maybe I compiled. Let's see. I was trying to fix the issue where they keep flying up into heaven. Yeah, I think I compiled. Okay, good. So, if I just hang out here for a bit, do they keep going up and up and up? Is the question. Or do they... They're all entirely in sync, which is quite funny. So yeah, it seems like they're now stuck at a somewhat normal height, and they have some variance as to where they can go, entirely based on... Fuck off. On that line trace. So that line trace is successful. So that issue has been fixed. They can attack more than once again. So my aerial enemy actually is fixed now. It works again. I think it was on my list of things to do that were figured out during playtesting, which apparently now that is fixed. So that's fan-fucking-tastic. Okay. All that said though, let's remove all of the flying golems from this level because they don't need to be here. Like that's all of them in this level, I think. Maybe? There we go. And let's see if that makes them a little bit more dangerous in the other level that I was actually working on. Yeah, the infinite jump boosts still are an issue, but that only works when there's an enemy above you. But there probably should be... I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do about that yet, to be honest. It probably shouldn't let you do that for like a second or two after you've done it once. But that's going to require a little bit more brain power than I have right now. And if I'm being frank with you, one of my eyes is like being a little bit blurry because I've been looking at a screen too long today. So I'm not going to be doing any like code related stuff because reading is being a little difficult at the moment. Okay, so yeah, the idea about like having these fuckers just like try to shoot you off is starting to work. We just need like 5 of them instead of 2. So that way they will shoot you off. And you will be knocked down to these other enemies, and God, if anybody complains that the game is too easy after this, I don't know what I'll do. It might become frustrating, that's the other end of the spectrum, right? You don't want the game to be too easy in the snooze fest, but you also definitely don't want people to feel like they have no opportunity. And sometimes maybe I lean a little bit more into the I don't want to frustrate people. A little too much, potentially. But let's see, how absolutely insane will it be with like 3 or 4 more of them in that room? Because it feels like it's going to be absolutely chaotic. I didn't actually put them in that room. Okay. Well, I put them in that room, just not on the proper streaming level. Is that all of them? Again, my left eye is being a little bit of a bitch. It's been doing that recently. That's probably not a good sign. 1-3 hallway. That's the level that we're in. Okay, let's try that again now that we're in the proper streaming level. Yeah, probably something like that. I'll end up doing. It's either going to be something on a timer where you it automatically does that upward attack when there's an enemy above you, because like there's a basic proximity combat system built in, where it does a specific special attack upward or downward when there's an enemy directly above or below you. But it's, at least for the enemy above you attack, it probably should have something where you can't spam it, and your solution actually seems like the easier one to implement. But I could also put it on a timer. I might just try both. I like the idea of it being on a timer, because that way... Okay, this does feel a bit more chaotic, but not quite enough maybe, because I need to actually like hang out and wait for them to attack me. So what I think would maybe fix that is... Oh, we just had that controller open, didn't we? But where is it now? Did I close it again? I think I closed it again. Anyway, I was saying something, I believe. What I like about the timer thing is that if you're very high up in the air, and you attack, and you fall a little bit back down, and you do that attack again, you still can like wiggle your way up to like roughly the same height that you were at before and keep fighting. Especially with how I am thinking that I want to disable gravity while you're in an attacking animation. That way the whole combat becomes potentially more mid-air. It also becomes a little bit more floaty, which if I want to look toward like the Kingdom Hearts fan base for players, people don't like. So maybe don't do that, I don't know. But I quite like that, and it's rather annoying at the moment that if you're in mid-air and you attack something that is like in front and below you, rather than something that's just directly in front of you. And the way I had my like momentum coded before, it would actually like give you physical momentum into the direction of the nearest enemy. And if there was above you, it would just propel you up as well. But I don't do it that way anymore. Now it's just baked into the animation, which has its upsides and its downsides. But it also means that while the animation is playing, gravity is still affecting you, and I don't know if I'll like that. So I have to play around with like the whole mid-air thing anyway. Okay, so now things are attacking me a little bit more. That's kind of more what I was looking for. So I think those projectiles also just need to be faster. But they don't need... They shouldn't be too fast, because these projectiles also should be like deflectable. Like that, yeah. Anyway, I think this feels, especially if you like enter through that door over there, because this is a challenge in one way, right? The other way is it's pretty easy to backtrack through. But especially if you enter through this door, it takes you a moment to get over this first little challenge here. At which point all of these guys are a little bit more spread out, and they can start attacking a little bit more, and you know, it's still not too difficult. Let me think. Maybe like move to player, and then when the player is less than, that's maybe the issue. Let's see, distance to player is less than 160. Is that the... No, that's the wrong behavior tree. That makes sense. Distance to player is greater than 3. Is that 300 or 3000? That's 3000. That's when it moves flight location, and otherwise... Oh, this locks itself for 5.5 seconds. Okay, that's probably why. So let's make that like 2.5 seconds instead. I have heard about, I never know how to pronounce it, Cazador. I've also tried it. I see a lot of people being very excited about it. Maybe it's just because my armature, my player skeleton wasn't set up properly, because it's also an issue, like, maybe now it would be better, is what I'm trying to say. Because I was using Blender's Rigify skeleton, and when I tried to rig that up in Unreal for in-engine animations, that also came with quite a few issues. So maybe it's more about that than the fact that Cazador itself was annoying. But I wasn't a fan. It felt like I wasn't really in control because, of course, it's using all this like AI magic to enhance your animations. That also kind of feels like at some point you're just like fighting the PC to get what you want, but that... I feel like that's a me issue because most people don't seem to have this kind of problem with the software. So that's probably just straight up on me. I could probably actually use something like that because I'm not the best animator in the world. Like, I can animate a little. But like with many things, I am somewhere between okay to decent at them. And in very specific things, I might be kind of good. But I'm not great at anything. So software like that really does help. But I do also really like animating in engine now. I also really do like that. Because I've had so many issues with FBX files being weirdly imported or exported or whatever. So I'm going to probably mostly stick with animating in engine. Specifically also because I need those rigs anyway if I want to like properly make... It still doesn't feel very aggressive, does it? Well... It feels quite aggressive. But if I want to make cutscenes and stuff like that in engine, for like the major characters anyway, like the main character and all the boss fights, they all need to be like animated in cutscenes too, and that I definitely want to do in engine. So for those I need control rigs anyway, and if I make control rigs, I might as well animate them in engine. Is how I see it anyway. So I like the idea of it. I still haven't gotten used to working with it, but every so often I just try again because everybody is so excited about it, and I'm not. And I feel like I'm missing out. I really do. But I do think that I'm going to... how long have I been live for? Because I feel like this has been quite a long stream at this point. Yeah, we're coming up at about 2.5 hours. I think it's about time to call it there for today. Fix a few issues. Replace the walls that I wanted to replace and all that kind of stuff. So maybe next week we'll be back. Maybe later this week. I don't know. I want to make this like a weekly thing when I can. So who knows? Maybe Monday, Tuesdays. Maybe I'll do it more than once a week sometimes. I don't know. I like just like hanging out like this and doing things with a live chat. So that's quite fun. For now though, we're going to end things here. I'm going to have some food. I'm hungry. 2.5 hours of straight talking and level making and a little programming really fucking makes you hungry.